you really have a lot of size?
Oh, that are run?
Yeah.
No.
Okay, so you're incumbents.
I don't know for sure. I think they're. Grace Church or Parents Alliance. I'm not sure. So, and then.
All right. Ready?
Family. Yeah.
Good evening, everyone. It is 6:32 p.m. on Thursday, August 22nd, 2024. And I call to order this general meeting of the Intermediate District 287 School Board. Welcome back, everyone, after a bit of a summer break for us as board members. And in honor of the beginning of the school year for our students and staff, I've asked our superintendent to read the mission statement.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The mission of Intermediate District 287 is to be the premier provider of innovative specialized services to ensure that each member district can meet the unique learning needs of its students.
Thank you so much. And Ruthie Dallas, would you be willing to start introductions for us tonight?
Sure. Ruthie Dallas, representing Brooklyn Center Community Schools.
I am Heidi Marty, representing West Tonka Public Schools.
Good evening, I'm Michael Bergman. I represent Edina Public Schools.
Renee Bowman, Robbinsdale Area Schools.
I'm Karen Orchid, Orono Schools.
Kim Ross, Eden Prairie Schools.
Dan Genestra, Wayzata Public Schools.
Jackie Mosqueda Jones, Osseo Area Schools, District 279.
Ann Casey, proudly representing St. Louis Park. And I am Crystal Brackey from Richfield Public Schools. Board member Mike Remicall from Minnetonka is unable to be here this evening because there's a Minnetonka School Board meeting happening at the same time. And board member Shannon Andreessen from Hopkins Public Schools is joining us virtually. And so she is an unofficial participant this evening, just sort of watching the meeting. So thank you, Shannon, for being here with us in that capacity. Next, we have approval of the general meeting agenda. There are no proposed changes to what has been shared with board members and the public. Is there a motion to approve the agenda as presented?
So moved.
We have a motion by Ruthie Dallas and a second by Heidi Marty. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Any opposed? The chair votes aye and the agenda is approved. Next, we have our open forum for community comments, and I don't believe we had anybody request time with the board this evening.
No, Madam Chair.
Thank you. So we will move to approval of the consent agenda containing routine business items that we approve as a slate, unless there is an item that a board member would like removed for individual consideration. Not seeing any or having heard about any in advance, is there a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented? Second. We have a motion by Jackie Mosqueda Jones and a second by Kim Ross. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The chair votes aye and the consent agenda is approved. We will move next to the superintendent's report this evening, where Superintendent Dowd is going to give us a strategic plan update and share her goals for the upcoming school year. So I will turn it over to you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So I'm going to ask my team, first of all, Paula, who is our Director of Communications, to come on up. Just to start, we finished our first 6 months goals. So remember, we started, it seems like we've had this strategic plan forever, but we actually started it in January. And we completed our 6-month goals. The 6-month goals, just as a reminder, was a lot of input and prep for the launch of this year's goals, the goals for this school year. And I am going to pass it off to the team to share this wonderful report.
Thank you so much, Superintendent Dowd, board members. So we're going to give you a 6-month goal strategic plan progress report, if you will, and just kind of report on our results tonight. So we'll go to the next slide and we'll really start with our values. Oh, I think I need the clicker. I left it. Newbie. What am I? Yeah, newbie. Still 3 years later. But here we go. Okay, the values and beliefs. So as part of our strategic planning process and engagement that we did with students, staff, and families and caregivers, we came together and developed these 4 values and beliefs. So these are fairly new, but you saw them last school year. Inclusion, we believe inclusion exists when everyone has equitable access and the opportunity to be acknowledged and validated. Integrity, we believe organizational integrity occurs when we hold ourselves and each other accountable. Trust, we believe trust is developed through honesty, reliability, and when our actions align with the district's values. And then authenticity, we believe organizational authenticity happens when each person shows up as their true self, embraces the uniqueness of others, and creates a safe environment. Our mission statement, it really encapsulates our core purpose and guiding principles. So as you know, the mission statement is, the mission of Intermediate District 287 is to be the premier provider of innovative specialized service to ensure that each member district can meet the unique learning needs of its students. And the mission is what really drives our strategic goals and initiatives as we move forward. So here are our themes for the strategic plan. We have achieving academic success, cultivating equity and inclusion, promoting social emotional learning. Each theme is vital to our overall strategy and so we're going to present right now our 6-month goal results for each theme. So I'm going to start with introducing the team here. We have Assistant Superintendent Dr. Elizabeth Lodge Rogers, who will discuss achieving academic success. The Director of Equity and Inclusion, Kiara Zachary, who will be covering the cultivating equity and inclusion. And then on behalf of Assistant Superintendent Dr. Tanya Allen, I will present on promoting social emotional learning. So we'll start with Dr. Rogers.
Good evening. It sure is nice to be here and fun to give this report. If you may recall that we framed our goals in each area under student goals, staff goals, and family goals, and family and caregiver goals. So each of our large, broader areas have 3 goals underneath related to students, staff, families, and caregivers. So when we talk about our student goal, that goal was that literacy and math assessments are accessible for each student. Those were established and that staff professionals designed and ready for opening week. And a lot of work went into the work group that worked on this, various representatives from our schools and our programs. And indeed, we started real intentional planning early in August on what that is going to look like. And we're all set to go and meeting with team members and programs next week to launch the assessment process, which for us is important. It's not a small task. Our students have a variety of needs, and so a lot of time is spent in thinking of and in reflecting on and coming up with measures for screening for academic areas, specifically literacy and math, across the various needs of our students. And so that we're excited about that. In terms of staff, super excited about this. We have our goal is to develop a collaborative planning guide and professional development related to that for teachers and our ESPs and related service providers. So for the teams that are working with students, and that is developed, it's in place. We have a plan and we'll be looking forward to fine tuning and working with teams as we implement that. And one important piece is we do extend the contract time beyond what many, perhaps even your districts do for our ESPs, so that there is some common teaming time. And so we're trying to provide a little more structure to that and support. And very important again was an audit of how we're communicating with parents, how often, our various methods. And we had a very robust process found the various ways. There's a lot of as needed communication, and also, again, that variety in terms of how those communications occur. And so we look forward to our work this year of really fine tuning that into some standard practices for programs and how we might leverage our district platforms, look at some. So that's kind of where we are with achieving academic success, and it feels good. And now we moving into implementation. It's really fun.
Wow.
Good evening, everybody. I'm really excited to share with you the progress of our 6-month goals on cultivating equity and inclusion. We have the same model. So our student goals were really around engaging with at least 40 students in our tier 1 and tier 2 programs and within our academies about how they would like to access course offerings digitally. So that was our goal for students. For staff, we wanted to develop a cultural calendar featuring dates and different observances, educational resources and recognitions to be provided to all staff by this school year, beginning of this school year. And for families and caregivers, the goal was to conduct an audit to determine the level of cultural responsive and relevance to our current translation and interpretation services and usage. How often are we leveraging the resources that we currently have? So I'm very glad to share with you that while our goal was to engage with at least 40 students, we had 118 students that were excited to and very happy. They loved it. They loved participating in the activity that we provided with them to provide input about accessibility and course offerings and strong opinions. I've learned that if you ask the students of 287, they will tell you straight up. There's very little that you have to wonder about within their within their recommendations. But they found that they would like very clear instruction and a visual to support them understanding what they need to graduate. That they really appreciated video introductions to their teachers and to courses. And also that they would like the materials to be organized by course areas. The feedback that they also gave, not about the digital tool, but about the conversations and how they would register for courses during that time, is that the adults that are helping them register consider the things that they like, what their goals are long-term, and then they use the term work-life balance several times. And so they really wanted us to be considerate about what is their entire personhood, right? That they come to us and oftentimes they could be holding down jobs. They could be caregiving for siblings or other family members. They could be parenting, right? And so our students wanted us to have those conversations and think about that as we are developing their course. So for the staff goal, this was super exciting for me that we developed this calendar with our equity leads and our cultivating equity and inclusion group members. So we have a group, an extended group that includes parents, family, staff at all different levels and from all different programs that helped us determine what dates and observances do we put in the calendar. And then our equity leads, which are the leaders of our equity teams within all of our various sites, they each adopted and wanted to research and create supplemental curricular materials and newsletters. And so as you can, that staff will be able to use throughout the year. So as you can see, it's a Google Calendar that all of our staff are automatically subscribed to. They click it, and then on each of the different days, there's a link in there that brings them to a folder that has all of these materials organized for them. So they'll be able to access them already. It is actually already on our calendars. We are going out next week and showing staff how to access the calendar. So they'll be able to use these resources. Our last goal is about the communications. So our goal was around completing an audit of our cultural appropriateness and the cultural relevance of the current audit of the current translation and interpretation services that we use. Most of the time, we use a company called Inco that does a lot of our translation and interpretation services. Funny enough, unplanned, but very serendipitous, I think. We had a meeting with Inco just 2 days ago. Yes, 3 days ago, Camille and I, and they provided us some numbers about their consistency and their ability to meet the needs of the district. 98% of the time, they're able to turn around and provide either in-person interpretation services, or they're able to translate the documents that we request in a timely manner. So and that resonates with what we heard. When they're able to leverage Inco, what we found in our audit is that a lot of our staff are using Google Translate, and they're unaware of the ability to use district resources to translate some of those documents. And so, again, part of the support of the Achieving Academic Success goal is that we would create a practice where we'd be able to use the more culturally responsive tool, which is Inco, over something like Google Translate. We found that English, Spanish, Somali, and Hmong were the most prevalent languages in which families indicated they prefer communication. There was a communications audit that the district facilitated, I think, just 4 years ago in 2020, either right before or after the pandemic, and I can't recall. And those languages were actually not represented. So the population and the languages that families are requesting information and have shifted in just 4 years. So this was a great opportunity for us to update our practices and for us to be more responsive to the current population of District 287. Lastly, parents would like more materials translated, was some of what we heard. This can be supported, I think, through, again, some of our practices, but then also our new website has a really great translation feature as well. So those are exciting things. Oh, here we go. Here go the outcomes. The recommendations are that we, again, create those expectations and guidelines. And that, again, one of those guidelines is that our district publications, we automatically translate in Spanish, Somali, and Hmong. We're currently working on that by doing our student handbook and staff handbook in those languages as well. And Camille, here you go.
All right, so here are the 6-month goals or the outcomes for the Promoting Social Emotional Learning, but we'll start with what the goals were. So similar format, we have the student, staff, and family goals. So the student goal is we were planning on participating in the selection of the district's social emotional learning curriculum, and staff will have professional development completed. The staff goal was an audit of current onboarding processes that would be completed and recommendations for improvement. And the family caregiver goal was to identify dates for family caregiver engagement and gather feedback on 4 suggested SEL topics. So for our student goal, here are the outcomes. So our main goal was really to involve students in selecting the district's new SEL curriculum and ensure that all staff completed their professional development. So I'm extremely pleased to let you know that we've made significant progress in both areas. First, we'll talk about the participation. We had 41 staff members and 155 students actively involved in the selection process. This level of engagement has been fantastic and really demonstrates our commitment to making sure everyone has a voice in this important decision. Based on the feedback and recommendations from our staff and students, we've decided on the following SEL programs. For Tier 2 elementary, we'll be implementing Harmony. For Tier 2 middle school, we've chosen to do it for the culture. And for our academies, we'll be using Safe Circles. These programs were selected to best meet the needs of our diverse student body and to support our SEL goals effectively. Regarding professional development, we've already completed the initial training over the summer. Additionally, targeted professional development sessions will be held at the start of the school year next week for our new teachers. This will ensure that everyone is well prepared and aligned with our SEL objectives. So for our staff goal, our goal is really to complete an audit of our current onboarding practices and develop recommendations for improvement. So I'm also happy to report to you that we've made some significant strides in that area as well. So to start, we had approximately 70 staff members participate in our survey and in-person focus groups. Their feedback has been invaluable in guiding our recommendations. Based on what we've learned, here are the key recommendations for enhancing our onboarding process. We're going to extend the onboarding period. So we've decided to modify the onboarding duration from 1 day to 3 days. This extended time frame will allow us to provide a more thorough introduction and better support for new staff. We're standardizing new employee checklist. So we'll be creating and utilizing a standardized checklist for new employees. This checklist will be customizable by site and program to ensure it meets the specific needs of each area. We're enhancing the training. We're looking at incorporating some additional training on de-escalation techniques, behavior management, and understanding student disabilities. We really feel like this will help our new staff with better being prepared to handle the diverse needs of our students. These changes are designed to make our onboarding process more effective and supportive, setting up our new staff for success from day one. Here's our family caregiver goal and outcome. So we made great progress here too with our 6-month goal. Our goal is really to identify those key dates for engaging with families and caregivers and to gather their feedback on proposed SEL topics. We reached out through our family nights that we had last year, through phone calls and surveys, and we received valuable input on both the timing and the kind of content that they wanted at those engagements. Based on their feedback, we gathered, here are the recommended dates for our family and caregiver engagement events. So you can put those on your calendar, but I'm sure we'll send you information on that, but these are the dates. These dates are chosen to really be spread out throughout the school year, giving families multiple opportunities to participate. We also gathered feedback on the SEL topics that matter most to our community. And so the recommended topics are mental health basics, focusing on self-awareness, which will help families understand and support mental health better. Healthy relationships, covering relationship skills to foster positive interactions and connections. Managing stress, so offering strategies for self-management and dealing with stress effectively. Friendship skills, enhancing social awareness to build and maintain strong supportive friendships. So these topics were selected based on what families and caregivers indicated would be most beneficial. And we believe they will provide valuable support to both the students and their families. That concludes this part of the presentation. Any questions before we keep going here? Yeah. We are the dream team. If there was an Olympic sport, we would be gold medal. So, okay, thank you so much. We'll keep going here with our annual goals. So, of course, as you know, we developed our strategic plan by consulting with parents, caregivers, students, and staff. Focus area work groups made up of members from those groups reviewed the feedback to draft our 6-month goals and our annual goals. So each theme leader will present their specific goals for this year. Each of you have a 1-pager in front of you. I believe you should have one with our mission statement, values and beliefs, and the 2024-2025 annual goals on the back. Thank you again for your support as we move forward with this plan. We're going to start with Elizabeth to talk more about this year's goals for achieving academic success.
Thank you, Camille. So by next June, 2025, it'll be here before we know it, right? Our student goal focuses on, is critical around academic growth target, remembering that these growth targets are individually set for our students, but our goal is each student will have an academic growth target and 80% of students will meet or exceed their growth target. That's our goal. I always say we use the acronym SMART goals, right? We want them to be measurable, we want them to be attainable, but I always say ambitious too. And for our staff, we are going to actually do some, our expectation is that in 100% of classrooms and programs, those teams we will see evidence of teams implementing the collaborative planning time guide. We really believe that if we can be systematic and intentional about our teaming time and what we talk about and how we're looking at what's happening and planning for, and we can be solution focused and much more proactive, and that in turn is going to very clearly support our students' growth and development. So we're expecting 100% on that. We have a draft of a tool which we will leverage to do some systematic observation and popping in and out of team meetings and supporting. We'll first train on the teaming guide, and then we'll collect those data and report back.
I have a quick question on that. I know sometimes when we have sort of this planning time, sometimes in our contract with the teachers and so on and so forth, there's certain delineations about what's available or what's contracted to provide and so on and so forth. By this goal, has that had any impact, or will it have any future impact on the contracts that we negotiate with the teams going forward? I love the goal, and I'm glad that we're doing this. I'm glad that are participating. But if there's not any impact, just say there's no impact. But I'm just curious. I know that's come up in our own district conversations and so on and so forth around this topic. I'm just curious
Yeah.
from our perspective here.
That's a really good question. And this is actually time that we've had built in to our staff day for a number of years, nine. So it's not new, and it doesn't, I don't think it requires a change, but I'll let Marcy pop in
This
there.
time it does not impact, so it's not over their prep time. It's
Mm-mm.
additional time that is used to look at student data and support and develop proactive plans to support behavior.
Okay, great, thank you.
And our students are complex,
Yes.
have, and we're working on many, with many directions and different needs. And so there's a lot of folks involved around wrapping around one student. And so we want to make sure that we're leveraging that time
Yeah.
really intentionally
No, I
and
think it's
with
great.
purpose.
I mean, I think, I don't want to say for anybody else, but like, there's a clear thing, this is needed. This is something that's, I think, going to be impactful to what we're doing. I know that certainly back in the member district, it can be challenged with the prep time and so on and so forth, and how that's done and so on and so forth. And the costs related to that are also a challenge when you're looking at things. So this is why it prompted my question.
Yeah,
Okay,
sure,
thank you.
sure. Thank you. In terms of our family or caregiver goals, having conducted the audit of how staff are communicating with families and how families would like to be communicated with, and making sure we're aware of preferences and being also intentional and systematic about our communication. So this year, over the course of the year, we'll have that comprehensive system developed. That's our goal for this year. And it's a big one. It's ambitious because different needs, and we need to be flexible, and we need to have a continuum, but we also need to be intentional, systematic, and focus on, and we do, but we want to be systematic about focusing on positive and proactive opportunities for communication, and try to do that more often than we might have a need to communicate in the event of a crisis. So, all right, and I'm going to stop because that's the end of mine. Next is Margaret.
All right, so the goals that we'll be working on for the upcoming year is that we will take the feedback that we receive from students and we will create a digital course offering thing, right? Essentially, it'll be a catalog, but we're not quite sure if that's what we want to call it. For our staff goal is that each site and program will host 2 culturally relevant educational opportunities, experiences, or performances using the dates identified in the inclusion calendar. And then for family and caregivers is that culturally relevant interpreting and translating resources will be provided to staff along with consistent standards of usage. So we are ensuring that families are receiving the information from the district not only in the language of their home language, but in a manner in which affirms their culture. All right, Camille?
Okay. So for our annual goals for our students, our goal is that 80% of students in Tier 2 elementary, middle school, and our academies will set their own SEL goals. They'll be responsible for monitoring their progress and discussing it with staff. This approach not only encourages personal growth, but also fosters a strong sense of responsibility and self-awareness. For our staff, we're working on developing a universal onboarding system. This will include mentorship from experienced staff members and a comprehensive training program. So we're aiming for a minimum of 8 hours focused on understanding disabilities, mental health, trauma, and de-escalation techniques. We're really looking at a robust support system that will help ensure that all our new hires are well prepared and supported as they integrate into our schools. For our families and caregivers, we're committed to providing at least 4 SEL-based opportunities throughout the year. These will be designed to engage families in meaningful ways, supporting their understanding and involvement in their children's social emotional development. So as we move into this new school year, these goals will guide our efforts and help us continue to advance our SEL initiatives. And we're really looking forward to a productive year ahead, full of growth, positive impact for our students, staff, and community. So our last slide are these wristbands that you have at your table. You're already wearing one. That's great. Thank you. These are our values that are on there. They're custom wristbands. And these wristbands are really a symbol of our shared commitment. And the values are really about serving a reminder to our mission to support students and caregivers. So thank you for embracing this initiative and for all your support as we go through the school year with the strategic plan. That's it. Any other questions? Thank you.
I just have to say, it's clear, it's concise, it's doable. Teachers are there, I don't want more on my plate, that these are focused, deep, go fewer, deeper, right? I love it.
Well, really, it's a huge thank you to Superintendent Dowd. You know, she's been the captain of the ship, so to speak, really helping to guide us, you know, and pushing us to do the best that we can for kids. And so we're very thankful for that, to have her leadership and guidance.
And I just want to say that SEL goal,
Yeah.
students making their own. Oh my gosh. I wanna watch that.
Yeah, if you could just email us the goals.
Oh.
Yes, one need is grabbing your one pager, but I'll make sure they're all.
Okay, thanks.
Anything else?
John.
Thank you. Yeah.
Super impressive. Thank you.
Thank you for the.
So now you get to talk about your goal.
So each year, I'm evaluated by the board. One component that is part of my evaluation is my goal. And based on my last evaluation and the comment that was said is, you have an amazing plan for District 87, work the plan. And so my goal is about working the plan, and just like in the 6-month goals and our annual goals, really diving deep into implementation. There's a lot of times things get busy and you get off track. And so I commit to completing 100% of our goals and then developing the 25, 26 goals so that every staff member leaves knowing what they can expect in the next school year. Questions about my goals?
I think it's brilliant, and I think what Dr. Ladbrother said before was, the A was attainable, but also ambitious, and it's like a tightrope, right? And I think that presentation and this kind of taking that on as your goal is ambitious and attainable, and great.
And measurable. I always say the word is measurable. It's not just a subjective. Or something that can be looked at, that you can audit, you can look at and see your progress, and as well as the students, staff, and the families. bit of all of it taken care of.
Trying so hard to open this without making too much noise. And I am sorry. Ribbit, there we go, thank you. Okay, now, I also, I think it's not insignificant to reset the timing of the goal setting. So that it is known at the end of the school year what we're focusing on as we look to the future. And so I specifically appreciate that part of this, in addition to just, working the plan, so to speak. Anything else? Thank you for getting this to each one of us. This is a beautiful handout.
Yeah, very well done.
I really like the simplicity of it. It's very clear, measurable. And it's two-sided, one page. That's
Thank the
really a plus.
communication department for that.
I think the other thing is I really like that there are streams for students, for staff and families and caregivers. So we're making sure all of the key constituencies are being addressed.
Sounds like rousing support for all of this work that has been done and all of the work to come, in this next school year. So thank you. All right, we will move to the next section of the agenda, which is in the Business Services and Labor Relations Report.
Chair Brackey,
Yes,
it says superintendent goals says action on the agenda. Do we need to
I
motion?
missed that
And
word. Do
approve?
we take, okay, let's do that. Thank you.
You're welcome. So I would move that we approve the 2024-2025 superintendent goals as presented.
Thank you. You're welcome. We have a motion by Kim Ross and a second by Michael Bergman. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The chair votes aye and the motion passes. Now we will move to the approval of routine monthly finance report. So Brian Schultz, invite you up, our Executive Director of Business Services and Operations. One second.
Well, thank you, Madam Chair, Superintendent Dowd, board members. As she's pulling up the presentation, I just want to give a little background too, right? We're presenting the end of the year June financial report. And at this point in time, we're still really on a cash basis of reporting. So right with Intermediate 287, there's a lot of invoices and billings that we do compared to a traditional district that really is metered through MDE. So our revenues are typically still a little low at this time as we're finalizing final bills because we don't want to overbill member districts, et cetera, during the year so that we have the excess to complete final bills. So revenue is typically a little lower. And then expenditures, we're not quite there, but all of our payrolls are posted. There could be a little bit of accrued salary. And then it's really accounts payable that we would have in the district. So those are slightly down, but a little closer to what they will be at year end. And you'll see that once we get in the report. In a minute. And then when we think, right, at the end of the year, June figures will change now and up and through the end of the audit, which then will come to the board. Yeah, we'll come back to the board I think it's typically December and January for that final financial audit report from MMKR, et cetera, that would have then all of our final figures for fiscal 23 in that June figure.
One sec. I think those of us with computers can probably look at it on BoardWalk.
Okay, yep, I can start with that. So just starting with revenues and expenditures, as I mentioned, right? So revenues, as of June 30th, we're just over $100 million of collection, which is about a little over 84% of our fiscal 24 budget. And this is slightly above where we were the previous 2 fiscal years. So that's good. We've collected a little bit more. Perfect, thank you. Okay. So we're slightly above, ahead of where we were the previous 2 fiscal years. And again, that figure will get closer to 100% when we do our accruals for year-end invoicing. That's occurring right now. As a lot of your member districts are actually asking questions about year-end payables for their side so that they can complete their audits and so forth. So sometimes we could submit some estimates to our member districts. On the expenditure side, we're a little over 108 million, which is about 94% of the 24 budget. And that's slightly below where we were the previous 2 fiscal years. So that, in a way, that's a good sign, right? We're collecting a little bit more. We're a little bit under, at least from a fiscal standpoint. So overall, we're in a good position at this point of the fiscal year and headed into the fiscal audit. Go to the next slide. I'm looking at investments. So we have 2 different categories. We have our regular investments, which is all of the district funds other than our construction funds, which we have to set aside in a specific fund because they're reserved for that purpose. So our regular investments at the end of June they started the month just under 28 million. We collected about 140,000 of interest and dividends for the month. And then we had a 2 million reduction, which is really just to meet cash flow for the month. We try to invest any excess cash that we have to make higher returns on, it could be term series, CDs, relatively safe investments, right? By statute, we have to do that with public funds. But we have to read it every once in a while. Investments will mature, and then we'll have to draw those out so that we can make payrolls, accounts payable, et cetera. So then we ended the month of June just over 26 million. So a very good investment balance to make returns for the rest of the year. And then our other ones, as I mentioned, are our construction funds. So that's the long-term facility maintenance bond funds. So those are set aside in Fund 11. It's a specific fund just for those, restricted for those purposes. We started the month just under 3.7 million, earned around 40,000 of interest. And then we had a construction draw for some of the expenditures for the bond projects that occurred in June, so 114,000. So we ended June just over 3.6 million. So we will draw quite a bit more with our projects that were occurring this past summer, right? June, July, August, where we had the roofing project as an example at South was 750,000, et cetera. But then we'll also have some for our next summer projects as well. So we have one more summer that we'll be using these funds. And I'll be coming to the board or before the board in October with a facility update, just projects that occurred this summer and then projects we're looking at for next summer as well. Overall cash flow, just to look, what does it look like from a monthly basis for the last 3 fiscal years? So the green is the current fiscal year. So we're looking very good. We do have a very cyclical cash flow. We are running slightly higher in the current year. And part of that is, part of it is our internal service fund. It's done very well. It's got a significant fund balance. Is that in other areas, if we, with reserves, it continues to keep our cash flow higher, which is what we need to have too. We work closely with member districts with pre-billing and then final bills just to maintain cash flow. It works well for both our member districts as well as Intermediate 287. But we're at this point in a very good cash flow position. Okay. Accounts payable, our disbursements. We had just under $5 million in accounts payable. Our payroll was 3.4 million approximately for a total disbursements of 8.2 million. And this is similar to previous years, right? There's some increases in costs, both with inflation and then contract increases. So they're slightly above, but within, right, our increase in budget as well. So trending very well on disbursements. And then we collected just under $7 million in receipts. And a lot of that is member district tuition invoices that we've collected. Next slide. And the final slide here is just looking at ADMs for the year and how we ended up. So for our ALCs, June, we ended the fiscal year with 237 ADM, which was 12 higher than we were in the previous fiscal year. And we were also over budget by 7 for the fiscal year. So very close on our projections. North Star Online, we were 119 over where we were last year. And we were also over projection there. So that is an area where we continue to see growth. And that is projected to continue into fiscal 25. Our career and tech programs ended 6 higher than it was in the previous year. And again, these could, I should preface, it could slightly change. It is the June period, but there's always cleanup with Mars data, et cetera, but we should be reasonably close to these figures. But career and tech, we were 6 over and we budgeted 63, so slightly over budget there as well. And our largest, our special education program, we were at 486 ADM, which was 22 higher than last year, but this was just slightly under budget by 6. We are, as we talked about with the fiscal 25 budget, looking at an increase just with referrals from our member districts. I believe in our assumptions and budget projections, we were at 544 going into fiscal 24. And then our care and treatment programs was the one that was under the previous year. And as I mentioned in other reports, this is a hard one to predict, and it's very based on needs and the students that come with those needs. And they were just slightly under what was out there in the previous year. Maybe that's a good sign, potentially, that there are students that didn't need that service. But overall, the year ending very positive with our student data. With that, I'll open it up for questions.
Are there any questions or comments? Dan, go ahead.
With North Star Online being 119 over, do you have kind of explanation for maybe why that was? Any kind of a guess, maybe why we.
It's really just kids seeking additional online services or programming. It's hard to predict what that's going to be. And I'm gonna actually look to Elizabeth as she oversees that program as well, just for some additional information.
We're recovering from when all schools had the opportunity to offer online with the pandemic. So we've seen an increase each year as we recover from that. But the other reality is that as schools across the state of Minnesota have trouble staffing, certainly, and this has always been the case, it's hard to find the teacher that can teach the whole range of math courses, for example. And so schools and students, families will leverage our NSO courses for supplemental. And in some cases, maybe a Spanish teacher left and they weren't able to find a Spanish teacher. So at that point, we're working with those districts to figure out how to do that and leverage folks. But we might have 75, 80 kids all of a sudden enrolling in Spanish 1, 2, and 3, and 4 for the school year because of that. And in fact, that just happened this week again. So specifically in Spanish. But yeah, so that's that is, and it is very hard to predict.
There was a bigger attrition of districts that offer online program this year than I think the previous years. So
True.
we just have that information.
Other questions or comments? Thank you. Always just clear, consistent, much appreciated. So we are being asked to approve the June 2024 monthly finance report. Is there a motion to do so? We have a motion by Dan Genestra and a second by Ruthie Dallas. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The chair votes aye and the motion is approved. Thank you, Greg.
You're welcome.
We move now to board business and we have 2 policies that are going to be shared with us by the superintendent for a first read.
Madam Chair. So as we start the new school year, we'll enter into other buckets of policy work. The first one is visitors to school district buildings and sites. We did have a procedure that was also very detailed, and so we will still have a procedure, but we also, this is one of the required policies that we need. And so, as we look at it, the procedures will be more in, if one of our evolved systems goes down, or if there's, ways that we might need to do a super search or something like that. But for visitors right now, this is the MSBA language policy for visitors to schools and sites. We agreed to adopt the policy as, the ad hoc committee agreed to adopt the policy as written. There was feedback around it with our safety teams and our administrators. We also do a spring survey, and our staff and families have also commented. There's been questions about our weapon detection system, and it is perceived positively, and they feel more safe on property with it.
So knowing this is the first read, this is just the opportunity for high level over, sorry, was there more that you were
Nope,
gonna
that's
share?
it.
Okay, that's what I thought. So take that into consideration, look at it again prior to our next meeting, and certainly feel free to be in touch with superintendent, myself, or any member of the policy ad hoc committee, Jackie, Kim. If there is more discussion that you would like to have, and Shannon, I apologize. Go ahead, Michael.
Oh, no, just a clarification. So you said that we already had a procedure, now we were actually putting it into policy. So this came about because in the review of what policies we had, there was a acknowledgement that this was missing, and this is why we're now creating this for this at this time.
Yep, so this is one of the required policies.
Oh, okay.
And we had a procedure instead of a policy.
Ah, okay. Thank you for that clarification. And thank you for the work on.
Anything else on this one? Okay, go ahead.
It's the same one for the next one. We had a procedure, but this is a required policy, uniform grant guidance policy. And so the ad hoc committee agreed to again take MSBA model language. The finance team did review it, and they will also update a procedure that is necessary for how you actually compare items. One thing that is different for District 287 is that if you go into definitions, number 2 definitions, e-procurement methods, we did increase some of those numbers. So for number 1, it'd be $25,000. Number 2, procurement of small purchase procedures up to $175,000. That is allowed. However, it needs annual board approval. So when this moves to the second reading, if it is approved, you'll see a request for approval of these amounts in to accompany with this policy. Any questions?
I can see people are sort of scrolling and looking, so we'll give a moment just to make sure that there's time. This is a long one. Yeah, Brian, go ahead.
I just want to add on to that, the reason of going to the 25. I think the 175 is current because that means what this is matching is, so when we use federal funds, it'll match the state quote and bidding statutes. So now that when we do purchasing with any district funds, they will all have the same thresholds. So it'd make it very consistent, easy for staff to follow, because prior to this, it was 10,000 for quotes and bids for you when you use federal funds. So this is really just to, and lots of districts have done this or will be doing this as well, just to make it more consistent and easier for staff to follow.
That's very helpful context and I think effective in thinking about how do we minimize the room for misunderstanding. Anything else? Okay, so same thing that I just shared, this being a first read. Please share any comments or questions that arise between now and our next board meeting where it will come back to us. So moving into the district news section, just a couple of things I wanted to highlight. The school year 2024-2025 Get on the Bus and Local 2209 meeting schedule is there, so you can see what has been scheduled. So I just wanted to specifically note the first one of each of those. Tuesday, October 15th is the Get on the Bus visit to the North Education Center. And then Tuesday, October 22nd at 1 p.m. is the 2209 lunch. So please take a look at your calendars. Obviously, we have several meetings between now and then, so you'll hear me keep reminding you about it and to invite people from your communities and let Juanita know if you and others are able to attend, especially for that Get on the Bus visit to NEC. We'll do once around the table real quick, and then I've got one thing in the board reports to share before talking about the closed session. So once around the table, topics for board members to share with one another. There's one thing that has been flagged as just an area of interest and room for sharing, which is, are there board members who are up for election this fall? We have Ruthie Dallas in Brooklyn Center. We have Kim and Eden Prairie, just the two of you.
And I'm not running again, but I will be up.
Your seat is up for
My seat is up. for re-election.
Well, congratulations to you and Ocio's loss. Okay, so good to know, just helpful as far as thinking about, of course, impacts for us as the 287 board, but also for you all as people. So good luck, lots of support to everyone for whatever your decision may be. Anything else that board members would like to share with one another?
Okay, I'm super excited. I just have to mention this. So where I work, so I teach for a different district. Where I work, we've been having Michael Walker, Dr. Michael Walker, come and do equity sessions in our school and has been doing it since the pandemic. So he's like an equity coach for the whole building, kind of a situation. Even when he was at the Center for Black Student Achievement and Success, and then when he was even assistant superintendent in Minneapolis, he is now the new equity coordinator of Osseo area schools.
Congratulations.
He's so amazing. I'm just excited for him.
Good. Are there other beginning of the year celebrations?
Our new superintendent started on July 1st, and in her words, over these days, she's counted each day as they've gone by. And I watched the stress and the tension in our district begin to just sort of even out, and it is just really joyous to have hope beginning to be restored to our school district. It's been a long time, but I can verify that I'm seeing hope grow. So grateful.
That's wonderful. Thank you for sharing this.
Yeah, I know.
Ruthie, go ahead.
It was exciting yesterday in our district for the opening session for staff coming back. And part of the program dealt with trauma-informed, trauma environment, creating a healing environment. And so everybody's excited, and I think it's gonna be really good as a kickoff this whole move. And our equity director was spearheading this.
I wanted to say congratulations to Ms. Carly Bailey, who we hired as an associate principal at West Middle School. Obviously, delivering necessary student supports and services to that part of our district. We're very grateful to have her, as well as Ms. Cassie Van Coverden, who will join us at Sunset Hill Elementary. That's our easternmost elementary school in the district in Wayzata. She'll be joining us as well as an associate principal. So we're very excited to have them both on board. I was very impressed by their qualifications. They've spent a very long time in education, so we're excited to have them on board, and I have no doubt that they'll contribute a lot to our district.
I have one more. I'd be remiss if I did not mention that this past Tuesday, and I'm sorry, I don't recall her name. Our CFO also started, so we have a brand new CFO. Our finance department went down to just bare bones. So we have a new CFO and we have kind of a reorg and some of that stuff, but we have a very talented body in that position.
Okay, moving next to board reports, there is one thing I wanted to share related to AMSD, which is I am very happy to share that I am no longer on the executive committee of AMSD, but Marcy Dowd is. Yeah, I cannot just be more excited to have Marcy representing not just intermediate to 87, but intermediate schools and our students and our staff broadly at the AMSD Executive Committee Group. So it is a 3-year term. It is that she has signed on for, and you know, being able to be part of the discussion, it was just like a unanimous yes. She will be an amazing addition to that group. So I'm just so grateful at your enthusiasm for being part of it and your willingness to serve.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And you have your first meeting tomorrow?
Oh.
So, okay, with
We
that.
have, I was going to ask, are there any other superintendents on that committee?
Yes, there are.
Oh, they are. I didn't know that.
Have all their names.
Yeah. Yeah, it's the executive and the legislative committee of AMSD have both board members and
And
superintendents.
superintendent. Good.
Okay, so we are next going to move into closed session to consider strategy for labor negotiations as allowed by Minnesota statute 13D.03. Okay. Sure. I'm gonna do one more thing, so just hit pause on what I just said, which is announcing and celebrating our first day of school is Tuesday, September 3rd. Is there anything you would like to say about the first day of school?
We are so excited to have our students and our staff come back next, on Monday, staff come back Monday. And then students and families, we will see you September 3rd. We do have open houses, at the end of next week. And so, just wanted to put out that gentle reminder, make sure you show up on the first day of school.
That is very important. And of course, happy first days of school to all of our member districts as well. Okay, back to closed sessions, which we can do pursuant to Minnesota statute 13D.03. Is there a motion to move into closed session? Second. We have a motion by Jackie Mosqueda Jones and a second by Heidi Marty. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The chair votes aye. So we will just take a few moments to clear the room and then we will begin our closed session for the evening.